Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's good, Wizards fans? It's your host, the real Ed Oliver, and I just want to thank you guys for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts, and today we have special guest Corban Ford with PHNX Sports, the Suns podcast. You can follow him on Twitter at CORBANNBA. How are you feeling today, man?
I'm doing good, man. Yeah, just happy to be on. It's a pleasure. A pleasure. I'm hyped. Yeah, I'm excited to go.
Right, definitely. So today, the Wizards did unveil their 25th anniversary Wizards jerseys, the throwbacks from the early 2000s to mid-2000s. They switched back to the red, white, and blue. We're going to talk about that a little bit. The main part of today's episode is going to be talking about the Wizards X Factor. Who do we think, other than Bradley Beal and Kristaps Porzingis, who do we think is going to contribute the most? Who do we think could raise the Wizards' ceiling if they have a good season? Somebody that you wouldn't think about that, you know, the two main guys are going to talk about that. Just quick news and notes. Deni Avdija did test positive for COVID, so he will be missing the games this weekend. Friday and Saturday, Israel's supposed to play in Georgia. Thank you for Aaron Sirocco. Somebody else DM'd me and told me who is a Deni fan. They live in Israel. They let me know that information as well. So shout out to the people who let me know that information. So it's basically we're going to talk about the swing skill or X factors. If they have a good season, if this player plays really good, it will raise the team ceiling. But I just want to get a gauge on your thoughts about the Wizards and their all season so far. What did you like about the Wizards all season? What did you not like? You know, they traded for Monte Morris and KCP. They traded KCP for Monte Morris and Will Barton. What did you think about that trade?
I like that. I thought bringing in a point guard in Morris, who we've seen traditionally kind of be that bench guard, back from Jamal Murray, but really has stepped up, not just last season in the absence of Murray primarily, but I feel the last couple of years he's really improved upon his game. So the fact he's going to have basically a pretty good runway to really get that starting point guard spot in Washington, I think that he's really paid his dues. You've seen improvement in his game. Now he has opportunity. And to get both him and Will Barton, who between Will Barton and KCP, I feel is maybe a better player to fit that 3 spot for the Wizards. Someone who, with scoring ability is just more multifaceted than KCP's was, as admirable as KCP's 3 and D, qualities are. I just think that the players you're bringing in for the type of team that you want, the Wizards still trying to be competitive, still trying to make some noise in the East. It doesn't really look out Washington in that way, but it does continue to kind of sustain a really decent core. So that trade I thought was pretty cool. And then as of what I liked, I was really high on Johnny Davis all draft cycle. Really all the information I was taking in, just from the draft dummies, obviously Locked On Draft, all of it. I'm just a big fan of his. And yes, I was at Summer League. His Summer League was not the most exciting. Definitely, it was rough. That's all. But I still think that what he brings to the table, I mean, come on, we're not going to really judge his entire trajectory for his rookie year from a couple Summer League games. So I'm still high on what the qualities that we saw in scouting him and what he looks like moving forward. Only thing I guess I didn't like as much would be the Bradley Beal extension, and that's not even the fact that they brought him back or for the years. It's really the no trade clause. I'm sure I've listened to a couple of your shows. I feel like at that point the Wizards are competing against themselves. You've given Bradley Beal all the leverage of future trades, and it really depends on your evaluation of him as that franchise player, because at this point he's locked in as that, and how far you believe you can go with Bradley Beal as the centerpiece. And now knowing that you can't move him without his say. So you really have a, late 2010s Carmelo Anthony situation in New York, and that was kind of rough until he was not that level of player and then just wanted to leave New York. So just all in all, I thought it was an interesting offseason for Washington. By bringing Bradley Beal back, that obviously set the direction. And then from there, I thought that the moves were going to make for a very interesting team coming up.
Right, yeah, 100%. Now, Johnny Davis is very intriguing. Yes, the Summer League was very underwhelming For sure. I was disappointed in myself, but Summer League, I don't want to judge too much on it. We've seen guys had all-world Summer Leagues. No disrespect to Glenn Rice Jr. and Detroit Brown Jr. All those guys made first-team All-Summer League team in the Summer League. But, Johnny, he struggled for sure. He struggled for sure. It's going to take some time. It's fine if you don't go out there and score 20 points a game as a rookie. But there were some concerns there. Just the quickness, the explosiveness, creating a shot for himself, creating separation. And I think it's going to take some time for him for sure. I don't know where he's going to fit in the rotation right now, but, we'll see. I mean, maybe he'll play better as a 3-and-D wing. He just has to improve on a three-point shot, separation, not getting stuck on an island. So it was concerning. And I'm a big Johnny Davis guy like you are. I loved what I saw. I love the aggressiveness. I think he had the dog in him. I love the defense from Johnny Davis. I love how, aggressive. The mid-range game is his thing. And I know analytics, they hates on the mid-range game. But I still think there's value in the mid-range game. I think Chris Paul, I'm not going to compare to Chris Paul, but Chris Paul is a mid-range guy. Devin Booker's a mid-range guy. There's Bradley Beal's a mid-range guy. So the mid-range game is still an important shot to the game. So it's going to be interesting to see how he translates where, he's not going to have the ball in his hands 100% of the time like he did at Wisconsin. So that's intriguing. But, yeah, like you said, Monte Morris, I think it's a good pickup. Will Barnes is a solid pickup. I think they made solid moves. They didn't make any swings for the fences, but they've just had their names in a hat so far for guys like Donovan Mitchell, KD, and whatever star that's been somewhat available. They just thrown their names in there. So, what are your thoughts on that with them throwing their names in the hats for KD and Donovan Mitchell? And do you think there's any chance that the Wizards have and those guys?
I mean, I like it. Like you said, you're trying to. Bradley Beal wants to compete for a championship, right? Now, evaluating how close or far Washington is, as of right now, let's just say it's possible that they could use some additional pieces, right? Certainly one of a KD caliber, Donovan Mitchell caliber wouldn't be bad either. And so, no, you have to credit, Tommy Shepard and the Wizards front office for being aggressive and trying to put their names in that ring and say, hey, whatever offer you're looking for. For other teams, I guess it really comes down to what do you feel about, Deni Avdija, Rui Hachimura, like some of these guys that are going to be there. How high are they valued by other teams as prospects, as interesting players? Of course, salary fill and everything there. So I guess the big issue is just what would be the package going out, and is that more tantalizing than say a Boston package around Jaylen Brown, and it's for KD, or if it was for Donovan Mitchell, is that better than the New York package? With maybe some of their youngsters and a church over picks. But the fact that again Washington is doing that, they've locked themselves into a course where they want to compete, right? The period of just above 500, the play-in, they're trying to get out of that. Making that commitment to Bradley Beal to try to do this now with this extension. This means that you're going to make some more significant improvements to your roster, if at all possible. So yeah, I credit them for doing that. I don't know how successful that's going to be, but I mean, I'm sure Eddie. Like, listen, if you're trying to win, you want to make sure you have all options available to you, right? You bring in a guy that we both like, Johnny Davis, at where he's at right now. I think in a situation where he doesn't have the ball as much, he can be properly optimized. And, if you're able to make a trade for a player and hopefully keep Davis and those guys, then you do that, and just see where the chips fall where they may. Because at the end of the day, you want that star power to really make some noise in the upper echelon of the East.
Right, definitely. Yeah, like you said, they're trying to show that they're trying to compete with Bradley Beal. I don't think it's an attainable thing, but at least they're trying. I
love that you said that, though. Yeah, I didn't want to say it. I'm like,
right. So yeah, we're gonna get to the X factors here. So we're gonna rank the guys. We'll probably say we'll name the guys other than Brad and Kuz. Other than Brad and Porzingis, and we'll rank the guys that we think that have the level of importance that could be an X factor to the Wizards' success, to help them with a playoff push, to put them in playoff contention. But before we do get to that, this episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports wagering information. From live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts, they have you covered. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening today. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, so I'll let you go first. Other than Brad and Porzingis, who do you think has the most level of importance to the Wizards' playoff push?
You know, it's funny you mentioned him at the very start of the show, and I feel you agree, Eddie. I have Deni Avdija.
Right.
I think is going to be the number one player as far as X factor who can really swing things for the Washington Wizards. And you look at last season, you know, the numbers didn't really pop off the page, right? 8.4 points, 5.2 rebounds, 2 assists per game. I'm not gonna lie, I thought I watched a fair amount of Wizards games, but I was like, that was it. But not realizing, you know, the role that he had. And I think the biggest swing factor, and this isn't really rocket science, is his shooting, his scoring ability.
Right.
Over his last 16 games, he averaged, 12.6 points, 5.8 rebounds, and 3.6 assists per game. Really stepped up, had a bunch of bigger games in that, eclipsed 20 points for a number of contests. And I think that working on that offensive side, we've seen what he brings to the defense side of the ball, the ability to guard, anyone from LeBron James to, Monte Morris, anyone in between there with his length, with his size, with his defensive acumen there. But offensively, his value as a potential playmaker, I think, is something that's tantalizing. His handle, I felt, was kind of right hand dominated, and he also had a bit of a high dribble. So it wasn't smart for him to be the primary ball handler in moments. And so I'm glad he wasn't put in that situation. But let's say he focused more on that left hand, right? He raised that shooting up. He definitely picked up the amount of makes and the volume from three, but he's still a career 31% three-point shooter. The percentage stayed the same. So if he brings those two up, that's big. Another thing is really just his finish around the basket. This is something I found an article I thought was really interesting on shots within 3 feet of the basket. Yeah, dead last, or one of the last on the roster. I mean, Raul Neto finished better. You're 6'9", you know what I mean? I'm not saying it's that easy. I'm not 6'9", so I'm not going to speak for him, but that's definitely an area of improvement for sure. So I think those are really the factors there. But come on, Eddie, if you bring the defensibility that he already brings to the table, imagine a 6'9" lockdown forward, shooting a three, let's say even a 35% clip, and still bringing some playmaking potential. That type of player unlocks different roster iterations for, just easily for the Wizards. And so you want to have that type of guy there.
Right. 100%. I have him as number one as well. I really do. I think you hit all the points there too. His defensive versatility is something that the Wizards don't have. They don't really have a wing stopper. They don't really have a lot of guys who are really defensive minded per se as well. Will the Thrill is good, but he's not known as a lockdown defender. I know he was top 20 in defensive plus minus. Same thing with Monte Morris, but he's not like a guy that you're saying, hey, go out there, guard Brandon Ingram, go out there, guard Giannis like Deni did, or LeBron, or Jimmy Butler like Deni did last year. And in the first part of the year where the Wizards were 10-3 and they were hot, and Deni was throwing up the X and whatnot. Deni, he is like you said. I don't know if you watched the game where he played against Auburn a couple days ago, where the second half he looked like the steal of the draft that he was projected to be by Mike Schmitz of Draft Express, where instead of laying the ball up, he was dunking the ball. He didn't make he was 2 for 6 from the 3-point line, but he shot the ball with confidence. He was getting to the basket, he was drawing fouls, shot 13 free throws, and he looked like a different guy out there. He was more confident now. I know the level of competition is a different level. Playing against college guys instead of NBA players, like I said, Jimmy Butler and Brandon Ingram, guys like that are elite NBA players. But man, if he can, like you said, the 3-point shot, if he can finish around the rim, if the 3-point shot can go up from 31% to 35, 36%, I think he really can motor the Wizards and push the Wizards. I don't know if he's going to start this year. I think Will Barton is going to start at the 3, and then it's going to be Kuz at the 4, and then Porzingis at the 5. But Deni, if he can really, if Wes Unseld Jr. can, if the developmental process, he's working out with Drew Hanlon this offseason, if he can, go left, finish around the room with either hands ambidextrous, and knock down the 3 and still play the tough defense, because he's arguably the best defender on the roster right now. But if he plays well, I think that could definitely contribute. Instead of the Wizards being, projected as a playing team, I think if Deni goes out there and drops 14 and 8 and say 6 or 5 assists and is the lockdown defender, and then the Wizards really could fool around and be 45 and 37 or 46 and 36. That would be huge, and that would be another draft pick that Tommy Shepard would be proud of, that he hit on, being your ninth pick of the draft. So That would be huge. Who do you have as number 2?
Absolutely. I agree completely with you. Like, there's no reason with a big push by him that they move up. But number 2 for me, newcomer, Monte Morris. I
Okay.
mean, you think about who the Wizards have had a little bit of a point guard carousel, right? The last couple of years. I mean, from John Wall, you had the Russell Westbrook year, you had the Spencer Dinwiddie half-season experiment, you had, Tomas Steinansky and Raul Neto and, Point Beal for a bit. And now, we're trying with Monte Morris. And I feel like with a player like him, you're getting someone who is just been stable. He's been available. He's been reliable. He's increased his shooting from 3 pretty much every year for Denver and really came through last year. Hit a career high 124 3-pointers, just under 40%. So it's no slouch from there, right? And I think that he is potentially the guard that you're looking for alongside Beal, someone who can co-manage the playmaking responsibilities of Beal, but also be a credible threat from outside to not have too much pressure on Beal to create for himself, like we know in the mid-range and for his other teammates. We've seen, for as good as Russell Westbrook was that one year, the spacing issues. And that was a collective Wizards issue that year, but it wasn't help from the point guard spot, right? Spencer Dinwiddie just didn't really have a good year to begin with. And I think there's a myriad of issues there. I don't really want to rehash that for you. I know you lived that, but you bring in a guy who not only played well there, but even raised level of play in the playoffs. I mean, he was shooting 42% from 3, still being a primary guy. I mean, this was a Nuggets team that, as much love as we give to Nikola Jokic, and yes, that man, did a yield man's job in terms of just sheer offensive production across a variety of factors. He did have Monte Morris alongside with him, continuing to kind of help churn the offense along. The most consistent perimeter option, one of the key factors to the Nuggets getting 48 wins. And I think that if you bring a player like that here in Washington, especially his superb assist-to-turnover ratio, he's not going to be a big wave maker, right? But he is somebody, I think, who can consistently come through and be the steadying force that Washington needs at the point guard spot while not challenging Beal in terms of a your turn, my turn. I think he's perfectly adept playing on ball as he is off ball. We know what he brings defensively. I mean, as long as he's not guarding like a Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Jordan Poole, he should be okay on that side. But I think that is where he comes in. I think that's his ability now to say, hey, this is potentially his job to get, I think will be the biggest swing factor, because you want stability across all 5 of your spots. And that point guard's been a hole. And now you already have 3 spots figured out, between Bradley Beal, whether Ford or center, Kristaps, Porzingis. You can make an argument for the 4th spot with Kuzma, but that point guard's position has been a hole. And so now you have potentially a guy who has been just as solid as they come filling that. I'm really high on what Monte Morris could bring this year for Washington.
That's a good point. So yeah, we'll say our top 3 guys. That's a good one. Monte is a good one. I mean, he's huge. I mean, like you said, it's been a carousel. Isaiah Thomas, Ish Smith, Shabazz Napier, Russ, just to name a few. I mean, it's so many guys. Raul Neto, so many guys ever since John Wall went down with multiple injuries. They've just been trying to find that guy. Could Monte Morris be it? Spencer Dinwiddie as well. He's just not a point guard. And it's hard to find a point guard. They're looking for an old school point guard. They're looking for a pass first point guard. You're not going to find a lot of those guys right now that are going to come in and start. Tomas Satoransky, if you want to add him, we can add him to the list too. Last year, and they're looking for a steady Eddie guy, and he has familiarity with Wes Unseld Jr., so he could be an echoing voice of what Wes Unseld Jr. wants as well. So I think he will fit next to Bradley Beal pretty well. Just not get in the way, and Brad needs a guy that can just set him up for easy baskets and not in a point guard that doesn't need the ball in his hands to be successful. And Monte Morris is that guy. But for me, I'm gonna stick with the young guys. I think Rui, man. I think a lot of people are down on Rui so much. I mean, you hear what Zach Lowe said about Rui. He just said he's a terrible rebounder. He's a terrible passer. He's a terrible defender. I mean, so many people. I just hear so many negative narratives on Rui Hachimura, and I'm just here to defend Rui. I still think very highly of Rui. I think he certainly has his defensive deficiencies where he's a turnstile or a turntable defensively. He's just lost in the sauce out there. offensively, his feet are moving well, but defensively, it's like he has cement feet. But yeah, he improved from the 3-point line last year. 44% from the 3-point line. Now a lot of them were standstill threes. Didn't shoot many off the dribble. A lot of them were catch and shoot threes, and he only really shot 1.5, 1.9 threes per game. So they were very low volume. So it's not something that you want to really lean on, but it's encouraging. And he was 98th percentile around the rim. We already know he's a good finisher. If he can just be aggressive, and I think he's capable of being a good passer. I think he just has to have the want to. I don't think he's a bad passer or just a non-pass. I think he's capable of being a good passer. I think he's capable of being a good defender for sure. The unfortunate thing last year, of course, the personal reasons being out for 40 games, I think that definitely was a setback, 100%. We can't deny that. For whatever reason, I respect Rui's decision for sure. But it's a contract year for Rui too, man. This is a huge year for him, and we know how things usually end with Washington Wizards players. They don't usually get a second contract, or if they do, it's usually an overpay. So he's a guy that you're looking at, by the trade deadline. Is he going to be here, or is he going to be a trade piece where they move on because they know that they're not going to want to bring him back or pay him whatever another team is going to want to pay him? There have been rumors or reports that other teams have been interested in Rui, like the Miami Heat have been interested in acquiring Rui. So if Pat Riley wants you, that speaks high volumes in my opinion. I remember the dunk on Anthony Davis. I remember the 20 points and 13 boards against the Sixers in Game 5. I remember all those games. The 30-point game against the Pacers in 2021. I remember all those games. So I'm still very high on Rui. I know his game is not analytically perfect, but he's trying to step out there and shoot a three. So can he guard threes and fours? Those are the questions right there. So I think if he plays well, just like Deni does, there's some isolation metrics that I looked up. I don't have them in front of me right now, but that showed that he was a positive defender in isolation situations in 2021. This past year he was bad, but in 2021 he was a good isolation defender. So I just feel like both of those guys, if Deni and Rui do step up and play better, both of your ninth picks of the draft, both of your lottery picks, then the Wizards definitely could jump, and leapfrog some of the Eastern Conference teams. Maybe the Bulls, maybe the Cleveland Cavaliers. Those are some teams. The Hornets, of course. Those are some teams that were in the playing range last year that I think they could definitely leapfrog. If Rui, big ifs there, Rui steps up defensively, can lock in and be more aggressive. He has the tools, the physical tools, the finishing around the rim, the post-up game, the mid-range game. So he's number 2 for me.
I like it. I do. I mean, I remember, Rui got a lot of hate. I thought, like you said, the three volume was low, but he definitely improved demonstrably as a three-point shooter. And again, you're right. Filling a position of need that could really help the Wizards out in terms of scaling that Eastern Conference. Yeah, I'm right there with you for sure. It's funny. I was going to talk about Rui, but I'm glad that you had that covered because I was like, which guy is someone? I mean, there was so many candidates for this X Factor here for the Wizards, probably boiled down the entire roster. But one guy I have as well, my third player is Corey Kispert. I think that you look at a guy, and this is why I think let me just ask you, what position for the Wizards is still probably their biggest position of need for you?
They need a 3-and-D guy.
And there you go, exactly. And I was thinking that not a 3-and-D and literally the 3, like the 3 spot. We've seen the point guard carousel. Who have we had man to the 3 the last couple of years? It's been a mix of guards. We've had Deni, we've had Rui in moments. Obviously Kuzma, but I think we all agree he's more of a 4, even though he can play the 3. And I look at a guy like Corey Kispert, who numbers aren't going to pop off the page last season. It was 8 points per game, 2.7 rebounds, 1.1 assists. Shot 35% from 3, which it would be great if he was Deni, but Corey Kispert kind of came with the moniker of being a shooter. So 35 kind of average for him. But I think, and this has been brought up, by Bradley Beal himself, it's some of the intangibility he brings outside just shooting the ball. This isn't, just a one-trick pony, a Duncan Robinson, if you will. No disrespect to him, one of the best shooters, in the league. But when Duncan's shot's not going down, it's kind of hard, right, to find other value for him. We saw that he was kind of buried in the back in the rotation by Miami, the end of the season into the playoffs. It was just hard to play him when a shot wasn't there. That's not quite the same with Kispert. He finds ways to be active, be involved. There was an amazing piece written I think it was Bullets Forever, that was talking about Kispert basically eclipsing his career high in points, but going 1 of 6 from 3. And it was like, well, how is he doing that when his 3 ball isn't going and that's his thing? Well, the guy can cut like it's nobody's business. He's among the NBA leaders in points in the paint, one of the best finishers there in points per cut, like in cutting. And one of the best finishers once he gets there. He finds ways to make things happen without, the 3 ball going down. And that's only more impactful because he comes in as a shooter, So if he's improving upon 35%, let's say he's shooting 39, 40% from 3, able to capably defend his position and also make use of his great slashing ability, and the fact that his numbers as a starter are amazing. As a reserve, decent enough, 5 points, 2 rebounds, less than assists per game. But you look at the 36 games that he started with those 5, with the starting 5, 11.8 points, 3.3 rebounds, and 1.5 assists. Obviously, the raw numbers, don't tell the entire story, but it does tell a bit. Everything raising significantly from his field goal shooting to his 3-point shooting to his true shooting overall, taking significant hikes in a position at 6'7" at the 3 that could work perfectly. And I think the biggest kind of swing for me is that you're looking at this roster. Obviously, you're building around Beal, right? You want to have guys who can contribute on the offensive end, but you don't want to have too many your turn, my turn kind of guys. And I think in lieu of a KD trade, in lieu of a Donovan Mitchell trade, let's let Bradley Beal run the show and have other capable play finishers, an additional playmaker, but not someone who's they're gonna capably defend, kind of mitigate some of Beal's weaknesses and let him just work on initiating the offense for the most part. If you bring in Monte Morris, guy who can help with the playmaking, shoot the ball. Now we got another guy in Corey Kispert, Deni or Rui, and you got Kuz. Of course, you got Porzingis. That's a nice core in terms of a fit. And I think that Corey Kispert could be a big reason to unlock that 3.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, they're looking for guys that don't need the ball in their hands and guys that can knock down shots. Porzingis he's gonna create double teams. Brad's gonna create double teams. Looking at the way Porzingis played the last 17 games, he created a lot of double teams. Defenses had to shift and bracket him. Basically, they were moving extra defenders towards him. But Corey Kispert, man, like you said, he's really good without the basketball in his hands. He's really good at cutting. He's really good off ball. He's a good finisher on the rim. I'm not going to say sneaky athleticism because he's athletic. You could see it at Gonzaga. He was athletic. So it's not really a surprise to me. But, man, he gets up on some dunks. He plays above the rim. He had a couple blocks last year too. So, I mean, he is athletic. I don't know about, being a 3-and-D guy because defensively he was one of the worst defenders in the league last year per the Raptor metric. But if he can improve somewhat, just not be a sieve on defense. But, yeah, he has to shoot the 3-ball better. He didn't shoot well in the first half of the year. He struggled against closeouts. He struggled against NBA athleticism. There were plays where, his 3-pointers got blocked or he had an up and down and traveled. So he did work on that. After the All-Star break, he was really, really good. And like you said, when he had that starter role, he just got more comfortable, and it's normal for a rookie. So I'm intrigued to see what he does next year. It's just where is he going to – he's going to get playing time for sure. He's definitely going to get 20 to 25 minutes per game. But most likely he's going to be the 2 guard behind Bradley Beal. And it's really between him and Johnny Davis for who's going to be that first 2 guard off the bench behind Brad or who's going to get the bulk of the minutes, because I feel like Will's a 2, but he's going to play the 3 for the most part.
Yeah.
And then, you got Will's going to start at the 3 for the most part. And then Denny's going to be behind Will at the 3. That's just thinking in Wes Unseld Jr.'s mind. Yeah. That's the way I see the depth chart right now. So it's going to be intriguing. But, yeah, if Corey can knock down the 3, that's something the Wizards need. They were bottom 5 in 3-pointers made, 3-point percentage. They were bottom 5 in that. I think Corey, he looked good that last half of the year. So I think he definitely could be an X factor.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, you're right. I mean, he's shooting the first 20-odd games of the season, like 27% from 3. So absolutely. But, yeah, I agree. It's going to be interesting. And that's funny you brought that up because I was thinking about, will Kispert be the backup too like it was last year, but with Johnny Davis there and Kispert being bigger, yes, not as good defensively as Davis is, but kind of how those rotations would work. But, yeah, that makes a lot of sense for sure. And it's going to be interesting to see kind of what he improves upon this offseason, what he brings to the table. Like you said, if he can at least defend adequately his position. It's not like the Wizards have like any all defensive player of the year, like
Right, yeah, they don't.
candidates. Like defense is not going to be their strength, but also bleeding points is not a recipe to winning either. So
Right.
yeah, if he can just do that and bring in that 3-point shooting, I mean, he comes in better than a 35% 3-point shooter. We saw, like you said, the second half of the season when he was kind of dancing around 40% from three. If he comes out the gate starting like that, and like you said, sophomore year, a little more comfort there, having had a number of games in his belt as a starter, yeah, I mean, maybe it's not ideal for him to be a starter like you were saying, but he can come in off the bench with that confidence and that comfort knowing, okay, I know my role I can contribute.
Right. Yeah, so then we'll probably wrap up with the jerseys, but my last X factor is Kyle Kuzma. Kuzma had a great year last year, especially coming from the Lakers. He's a guy that, thought he was going to get traded to the Kings. He was a guy that, his role increased with the Wizards. He was just a 3-and-D guy playing, with LeBron and AD, kind of stuck in the corner. He got an opportunity to create for himself and play like he did within, his rookie and sophomore year before LeBron got to the Lakers. So I was happy to see that for Kuzma, but he rebounded the ball really well. He passed the ball really well, led the team in double doubles. In the year of 22, he led the Wizards in points per game. He led the team in rebounds. He had a triple double as well. He had 25 points. He had 27 points and 22 boards in one game, which is ridiculous. The last player to have a 20-20 game was Chris Webber, and I got to look it up whether it was Chris Webber in the Wizards, the dark blue jerseys, or whatever kind of blue you call it, or in the red, white, blue
or whatever.
Chris Webber was the last guy to do that. So he did some crazy things. He was clutch. He was so clutch. The Cleveland Cavaliers game, the Pistons game winner. Kuz hit some big shots, and there are some times where Bradley Beal struggles on the clutch, and the Wizards need a go-to guy. It could be Porzingis too, but the more the merrier. So Kuz is going to get some open looks, and I know his role is going to change a little bit this year because he was the number one guy when Bradley Beal went down. Easily, he was the number one guy by far. Put up some crazy numbers, 30-point games here and there. Hit 8 threes in one game. So Kuz is going to be huge, man. It's a contract year for him too. He has a player option coming up this year. So is he a guy that could be on the block at the trade deadline, or could the Wizards do it? Could they make an extension with Kyle Kuzma? So it's a lot. Kuzma and Rui are both in contract years, so it's a big year for Kuz, man. It's a big year. He's going to get paid. He's going to get paid. But I think if he plays at the level he did during that stretch where he played really, really well, that's a guy who him, Brad, and Porzingis, I'm not going to call them a big three, but they would be a solid three. They would be a solid three in the Eastern Conference.
I like that. I agree. Like you said, not a big three, but yeah, a solid core, solid three. And Kuzma, especially, I think, since LA, and we knew this kind of happened. We talked about this when he played with LA, being a big Lakers fan, watching a lot of their games as well. When games when AD wasn't available, when LeBron wasn't available, and there was a more offensive responsibility shifted on Kuzma, he can do that. It was a matter of finding that consistency. And you're right. I mean, again, this is somebody a little bit older. I want to say the same like Kispert in terms of knowing, hey, I can step up and do this. Kuz has already known this. But you're right. Like that front court, it's a tantalizing mix. Like, honestly, just enough defense, enough rebounding, offense in different ways, all can kind of create, or at least Porzingis and Kuzma. Yeah, I definitely like that for sure.
Right. Who's your guy? Was your third Kispert?
My third was Kispert. Yeah, my honorable mention, I guess I could throw out there with Will Barton, but I didn't want to go down the whole roster.
I'm with you on Will too. No, I'm really with you on Will. I feel like Will, like kind of how Montrezl Harrell just had that crazy start. I feel like Will. I don't know if Will would dominate like how Montrezl Harrell did in the first 10-3 start. Montrezl is like an MVP candidate on the MVP ladder. But I feel like Will, if they have him come off the bench, I feel like he's a guy that can average like 16 points off the bench really easily. I mean, I think he's a microwave scorer. He's a guy that he's a professional scorer and a professional playmaker.
Yeah, like you said, we've seen this. Portland, Denver. Here, like Will can cook, right? And you give him the responsibility now. I think maybe he was overstretched a little bit with the injuries to Murray and Michael Porter, where he had to do scoring and also some creation responsibility, because you didn't have Monte Morris all 48 minutes, and backup point guard was kind of an issue for Denver. So now you're kind of taking it away. Like, yes, you can do some, but right now, like you said, give him the ball, let him go to work. And he's come off the bench, especially. Like, the dude could drop under 20 as a starter. I definitely like his ability to kind of stagger with Bradley Beal as a primary scoring option with Beal and Kuz, whatever the case may be, and really go to work. That was kind of mine. And mind you, for honorable mention, the reason why is because we know what he is as a defender. We know what he is as kind of a playmaker. It's the scoring and the upside there, and if he brings what he does and he's mostly healthy, he's somebody that I don't think can impact the team quite as much as the other 6 we've mentioned, but at certain points can definitely rival forward and take it over for sure.
Definitely, yeah. So who was in your honorable mention? Did you have any other guys other than Will?
Aside from Will, I didn't feel right putting Johnny Davis there. I like Johnny Davis. He was someone that before I saw him in summer league, I definitely was like, oh wow, put him in right now. Like, this guy could be a starter. I was even thinking he played point guard along Beal, which was already off because like his playmaking, mind you, some of it was just due to teammates at Wisconsin. So the numbers, the assist turnover ratio, all that kind of deceiving, but also his playmaking wasn't super great just on a scouting perspective. So then I thought, okay, maybe you could shift this before maybe you could shift Beal to the point and kind of have some different lineups there. All that was a prior thought process, and then watching the summer league maybe it made me take a step back and just go, okay, you might have some rookie bumps. Who knows? I mean, like we already talked about, summer league is not the best barometer for how a player is going to perform in their rookie season. Although it does help when they are, right out the gate productive. But he's someone that I look at because he has the ability to create his own offense, and you have what I would say off the top of my head, 4 players on Washington that could do that right now. And that would be, of course, Beal, Barton, Porzingis, and Kuzma, right? I like Davis as another option, somebody who you can bring out there for more offensive focused lineups. And right now I don't see him, really making that much of a factor to start, not because of his own stats, but just because since following that draft selection, the Wizards have obtained more players that quite frankly should start over him. So he would be my honorable mention. Let's say, unfortunately, knock on everything, an injury comes out or something, and he has to step up. He already has that from scratch shot creation ability in the mid range. Like you said, he got that dog. He's going to defend. I think he can bring something to the table without taking too much off of it in the wake of an injury to any of Washington's main perimeter players.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a good one. I'm gonna go with Big Gaff. I think Gafford, if he could
solid,
stay in shape, stay out of foul trouble, catch the ball, not bring the ball down, finish around. It's a lot, but he needs a point guard that can really set him up. That's what he needs really bad to throw him lobs. But quickly, we'll end on the jerseys. Just give me one moment that you really liked from that Wizards era, and what's your thoughts about the throwback jerseys that they're bringing back?
I think it was that 2006 playoff series against LeBron and the Cavs, where they had the last stand. I think the Wizards probably get swept or something, and they had Soulja Boy, and they were coming out. I think Caron Butler had a big game, and you could. I mean, this is old. I remember watching this. I was like 9 or 10, but like watching replays of it. And the arena was rocking. They were hitting the Soulja Boy. It was hilarious to like look at now, but like that was dope. You know what I mean? Like this is a team that like we're on the level. You had some rivalries up there, but you had that one game, that one moment where it was like, yeah, we in here. Like, what's good? And I love games like that where and the atmosphere, and also come on, shout out to Soulja Boy, like
right, yeah.
Crank that.
That was fun times. It was fun times. Even Jay-Z, he made a diss song to Deshaun Stevenson. He was like, "What's the king to a pawn?" So that's how we were rent free in LeBron's head, rent free in Jay-Z's head. But that was a fun series, man. I hate that LeBron whispered in Gilbert's ear and Gilbert missed the free throw. Sad times, but a lot of fun, going back and forth with LeBron in those series for sure. When Gilbert hit the game winner against the Bulls. I love when Hibachi Gilbert hit the turnaround game-winning walk-off 3 against the Utah Jazz. I was, we're probably the same age, so I was, in probably middle school at the same time. Mm-hmm. I just remember the Gill Zero shoes. Like a lot of people were wearing those shoes. They were, they had the same color waves. But I'll probably break down in another episode, like all the moments, like Michael Jordan. Gilbert Arenas, John Wall doing the ducky and whatnot. So even the bad ones where Michael Ruffin threw the ball in the air and the Raptors, JaVale McGee and whatnot. But to keep it on the bright side, I loved Gilbert those years. Him, Caron, and Anton. That team was very fun to watch. Larry Hughes, Brendan Haywood, I enjoy that team. It was a lot. Deshaun Stevenson, he played with a lot of heart and a lot of grit. He was a microwave scorer. So that team was very fun, man. I enjoyed those years. I really wish I was a little bit older, so I could just because I love watching basketball, but I would have loved to enjoy it being
Fully.
older, just grasping all of the game. So
I'm with you.
But yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely. So yeah, the jerseys are fine. I don't mind them. They're not the sexiest jerseys, but they're fun.
There's some good memories attached to it, so I'm with you on that for sure.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
But yeah, Corban, I just want to thank you for coming on. Tell the people where they can find you, and if there's anything you have to plug.
Hey, I appreciate it as always, Ed. This is fun. Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Corban NBA. Simple CORBAN NBA. I know the Sun shirt was kind of deceiving. I literally have like 18 million team shirts. I just throw on one. But yeah, I actually do a podcast for the Phoenix Mercury. So it's the PHNX Mercury podcast. Definitely make sure to check that out. It's funny, we're recording this now. I literally just got off a live doing that one. So trying to stay in the playoff chase. We'll see how that goes. It's been a long season for Phoenix Mercury. As always, free Brittany Griner. But aside from that, yeah, any stuff coming up the pipeline will be there. Hopefully more podcasts in the future. Definitely collaborating with you, man. And again, thank you.
Definitely. Yeah, so thank you guys for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every day. Now, for your second listen, get up to date on the latest news and rumors in the NBA in just 30 minutes every day with Locked On NBA. Locked On NBA, your daily NBA update in just 30 minutes. Hail to the Wizards. Peace.